started working with steel in '90, I had been working in various mediums. I worked in ceramics, I worked in a paper process with Jesse Lott. I started painting as a little girl with my father. So I was always involved in art and always loved it. 5 of us were written up in Museum and Arts magazine. Jesse Lott and 4 of us who were using his paper process. The article implied that the men were more serious than the women. So I took that as a challenge, and I had always been intrigued with metals. It was the next step for sculpture from paper, and I'd already done wood. So I took some welding courses and loved it, absolutely loved it. So I've been welding ever since. When I was taking the courses, I came home after a couple of weeks and I had caught my shirt on fire, and so the front of my shirt was burned out. And we were learning to cut, and I didn't know you weren't supposed to put your face like 2 inches from the metal, so my face was covered in soot. You can see the outline of my glasses. I had washed it, it was still covered with soot. I came home, I had on those steel-toed boots and plopped on this sofa, and honey, would you untie my boots? I am exhausted, and I just don't know if I can do this because I will never be as strong as the men. And my good husband said, look at you, you're filthy, you've set yourself on fire, you're exhausted, you can't even untie your boots. I was sure those steel-toed boots weighed about 55 pounds a piece at that point. And he said, you have a smile on your face. Normally you come home from the office, you throw your briefcase, 5 minutes you're yelling about something. You're filthy, exhausted, you have a smile on your face. He said, you'll get stronger. And so I kept at it, and I did get much stronger. I love working with the metal. I love being able to manipulate molten metals. I like working with fire. That was something new I learned about myself, was how much I really like fire. So that's where I started. And I made a 30-foot horizontal sculpture that La Mujer Roja, and she sold to Craig Hall in Dallas, in Frisco, for his Texas Sculpture Garden. And from that, I now have 8 monumental sculptures in the Dallas Metroplex, the largest of which is 4 stories. And Craig Head Green Gallery picked me up, and I've been showing with them from, I think it was 2003, and my next show is June 2019. I grew up in West Texas, Midland, Odessa, which is the Permian Basin, and that means totally flat. It was the bottom of the ocean. It's where the origin of West Texas sweet crude was. And so I grew up with pump jacks, jackrabbits, rattlesnakes, and Daddy had 23 sections. That's 23 square miles. So you could put the island of Manhattan on our land. So there was no one there. It was me and the environment and little creatures. I spent much of my youth alone wandering around on the land. So it was very flat with vertical protrusions here and there. And that really informs my aesthetic. The empty horizon, those wonderful big skies that are just endless, and then periodic things protruding from the ground, pump jacks, drilling rigs, here and there a building. And I still am very conscious that that informs my art. My basic forms are arches and curvilinear and spirals. And that comes from the elemental elements of nature, starting with the atoms, the way things move inside them, and it just expands. It's the way trees grow, it's the way the planets orbit, it's the way the galaxies orbit, it's the way everything is formed with fractals. It's always in arches and spirals. And you can really see that if you watch videos on how the planets move, how our sun moves through space and how our planet moves around it. It is an elemental shape, and I think that we as humans respond to that on a gut level. And I've been doing it for a lot of years, and I don't think I've finished the exploration.